Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. I'll get this webinar underway. Hopefully you've made it to the right place, but we both welcome you to a dedicated webinar related to the Bachelor of Learning Design and Technology. And this is a brand new 3-year undergraduate course that's offered by the Faculty of Education at Monash. My name's Patrick, and I, along with my colleagues Jennifer, Olive, and we've actually got Alyssa joining us tonight, we all work specifically for the Faculty of Education, and we have a particularly delightful role that often involves travelling the state, the country, and various parts of the globe, looking for some of the most promising future students. This can range from students in fields such as teaching, psychology, counselling, applied behaviour analysis, leadership, and of course education. More recently, we've started searching for the next generation of learning designers. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the lands from which the Bachelor of Learning Design and Technology will be taught, and that'll be across Clayton and Caulfield campuses in Melbourne. This includes the lands of the Boon Wurrung, but Monash University also spans the lands of the Wurundjeri. Both of these are communities of the Kulin Nation. Our students hail from many of the 500-odd First Nations across Australia, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. To give you a brief overview of this session, we'll be basically covering a lot of different topics in a very small amount of detail, but I hope to include what learning design actually is and what learning designers do, where they work, and we'll provide you with a few examples of the many areas they work to, the types of companies who employ them, the current industries in Australia, really short history of the learning design industry. We'll give you an idea of what the job outlook currently is, expected growth within the industry, potential salaries, details about the course of course. Could be a relatively busy evening. We'll also go into a little bit of detail about the course structure and provide an overview of not only the core units and elective, but the skills that you'll gain along the way, entry requirements, the application process, as well as potential pathways into this course. Overall, look, depending on how fast I'm speaking, this should take between 20 and 30 odd minutes. We encourage you to post any of the questions you have along the way in the Q&A section. And as I said, my colleagues will jump on them as quick as they can. We'll either answer them via typing as we go, or more than happy to mark them live, and I can address them at the end of the session if I can. All right. So the Bachelor of Learning Design and Technology is a 3-year program delivered predominantly from our Clayton campus. It has a February intake only, and the first intake for this course will occur in February of 2025. Direct applications are currently open via VTAC. One of the questions we've received most this year when we've been sent around the place talking about this particular course is, what is a learning designer? And when it's in the title of your course, it's something that we need to explain relatively quickly. Issue is, it's hard to explain in less than, say, 20 or 30 minutes worth of a session. We do have people within the faculty that are happy to engage this question over the course of a few hours, and the reason being is because there's so many different types of learning designers. We'll try to narrow it down a little bit for you this evening. A learning designer is someone who creates educational experiences. So outside of the classroom, not necessarily in teaching, but they do blend teaching methods with, technology to design courses, training programs, learning materials, basically with the goal of helping people acquire new knowledge or skills. It's kind of like being part educator or part problem solver, part creative thinker, all whilst keeping that particular learner's needs in mind. This generally, as I said, expands far beyond a typical classroom to the realms of online courses, corporate training, basically anything that's going to make learning enjoyable, intuitive, and obviously effective. We want to make sure that people learn what they're supposed to be learning. Where do learning designers work? The short answer is almost everywhere. Across almost every industry, large organisations from Australia and across the world. For the younger audiences, you'll find them living on Sesame Street, helping kids understand neurodiversity and working behind the scenes on popular shows like Bluey, writing scripts to help kids build resilience. They're assisting surgeons at Eastern Health to develop innovative techniques to advance surgery and the delivery of training. You'll find them developing training scenarios and simulations for Virgin, assisting even seasoned pilots to translate their knowledge and skills to trainees before these trainees have even set foot in an A330. They're working for the likes of Nintendo by designing and generating and even writing the narrative behind some of the most visually spectacular games on the planet, and allowing players to gain an understanding of even basic fundamentals of physics when building ridiculous contraptions in The Legend of Zelda. For any students that might have maybe fond memories of a time when mathematics was enjoyable, learning designers have worked to gamify these types of experiences and to assist students to learn without even realizing it. They're developing the latest training programs to help keep people alive, so updating and maintaining and delivering first aid and CPR programs to literally thousands of workplaces. They're curating sometimes delicious recipes that allow even those of us who are pretty incapable when it comes to cooking to create fresh meals with what we'll say is limited kitchen anxiety, so really simplifying the process for us. They're keeping us addicted to a range of applications too, believe it or not. So when it comes to learning languages via Duolingo, if we refuse to break our 300-day streak, they're even sneaking into places like pub trivia, employing the services of learning platforms such as Kahoot to try and keep the competition at its finest and to make sure that you're the team that earns the next pint of beer. They're teaching us new instruments without a physical instructor. They're taking us through the basics of laboratory safety. They're training the next generation of firefighters through the eyes of a headset. Basically, as I said, learning designers are absolutely everywhere. This means that graduates of this course will have a fairly expansive range of choice when it comes to future employers. So we've got a whole bunch of industries already. We've talked healthcare, aviation, education, agriculture, government, electronics, toy production. There are vast opportunities not only in Australia but across the seas as well. This beautiful wall of text is actually a list of a fair few recognisable organisations that place such a high importance on learning design that they employ what's called their own Chief Learning Officer, so a CLO. CLOs work alongside other C-suite executives, so CFOs, CEOs, and often sit on the company's board as well. So this kind of reflects how critical learning design has become in terms of building the skills and careers of employees, or how important organisations see it to be. It's important to note that this industry is not new. It's actually incredibly well established, recognised in the Western world at least from relatively morbid beginnings, you'd say. Basically starting from World War II, how can we systematically train thousands of infantry soldiers so that each gain and retain the same skill sets in the shortest time frame possible? We won't bore you too much with a history lesson on a Tuesday night, but from there we basically see the rise of technology, the introduction of computer-based training in around about the 80s, the massive increase, particularly in the availability of data, and all the way to where we are now with hybrid learning, the incorporation of AI, AR, VR, simulations becoming more ingrained in basically everything we possibly do. Like I said, this is not new. McDonald's, for instance, introduced their Hamburg University more than 40 years ago, so more or less paving the way for 5,000 odd major companies who have their own corporate universities dedicated to staff learning and development. So it's not new. So far, we've got examples of technology. We have service design across different industries. We have examples of different media, content, game design. We have thousands of companies dedicated to corporate training and HR. It's also important to note that learning designers do actually work in education, believe it or not. So every university, at least across Australia, has a team of educational designers, instructional designers, learning architects, curriculum designers. Really depends on the situation you're in, but basically the same role for all intents and purposes. And they help academics design teaching materials. At Monash, a learning designer can earn about $116,000, I think was the most recent job I saw advertised at Monash. And they help design units and materials to assist teaching the teachers of the future, and even medical students to learn how a human heart operates using VR without actually having to cut open a real one. Great way to practice. It's kind of difficult to bed down what a typical day as a learning designer looks like, given, as I mentioned, the vast array of different industries they work in, but they all kind of start with the same sort of problem. Learning designers often work with specialised teams, and they start a project or a challenge by identifying the challenge or problem, basically what result they want to get from the designer and why they haven't achieved that so far. They'll then look at collaborating with the subject matter experts to get a grasp of the audience learning requirements. So keep in mind, a learning designer doesn't necessarily have to be an expert in a particular company's field. They're working alongside people that know, I guess, the content, they know the industry of which they work in. They need a learning designer to help to translate that to future learners. The learning designer will analyse an audience's characteristics, including their learning preferences, their accessibility to technology, and implement different assessment methods and what's going to engage this audience to the best of their ability. Once they've got all that information at hand, they basically develop a tailored learning experience or experiences to tackle this learning challenges. They look at utilising a whole variety of methods, tools and platforms to design these learning experiences effectively, keeping in mind that different scenarios, different locations are all going to have different sorts of access to various technologies, so they need to be relatively adaptive as well. In Australia, the learning design industry is on the move. It's growing more or less and projected to grow around about 22% within the next 5 years. Across the past 10 months or so, on any given day, you'll find that there's about 10,000 learning designer job vacancies. As of this afternoon, there was 11,819. So basically, there is ridiculously huge demand for people with skills in this area. This course is developed to meet this growing demand and designed with the industry, basically to support the industry in filling these positions too. You'll find that learning designers are quite well paid as well. So the average salary for a learning designer fluctuates between $95,000 and $105,000. And many of those big corporations that I mentioned earlier with the positions of a CLO, CLOs in Australia on average are earning $403,500, and often in excess of like more than $500,000. So there is money to be made for those of us that make our way to the top. All right, so we've covered a few potential industries, we've covered potential career outcomes for our graduate, but we have arrived at the main attraction. So the focus of this 3-year course is to develop a student's practical problem-solving skills to enhance their creative thinking and to ensure that they end up with industry-relevant skills, or more or less, they end up with a job that they're ready for and a job that is, I guess, within an area that they're actually interested in or passionate about. Chances are this course is best suited to people with an interest around education, training, psychology, particularly for those who don't necessarily want to head down the 6 or 7 year pathway to become a registered psychologist. Those with any skills in art and design, learning experience need to present well, and they actually need to look good in order to engage us. So very important that they're presented well. Technology, as the course name would suggest, and media content creation, as well as communications. This is an indicative course map, and a copy of this one's actually been made available on our website for 2025. I'll make sure that in our post-event communication we do include a link to this course map to everyone that's registered. The slight benefit of an online course map as opposed to viewing one on a webinar screen is that it'll allow you to actually drill into every single unit offered in this course and give you a better understanding of the workload requirements, assessment requirements, whether you'll be submitting assignments, whether you'll be presenting with a group, whether you'll be sitting exams, and basically what every single assessment task is worth. It'll also list how many lectures and tutorials are offered per week, and basically just give you a full overview of what you might be signing yourselves up to. That said, there's still a number of the individual unit handbooks that most likely won't be published until the middle of October, but this will at least give you a head start. As you can see from this course map, it is a multidisciplinary course, and we can break it up into basically 4 main areas. In the light blue, depending on what screen you're looking at, but on mine it's light blue, we have our learning design units, and these are administered by the Faculty of Education and have been specifically designed for those entering the learning design profession. No copy-paste from our education degrees. These have been written with the main aim of providing the most up-to-date and the most relevant information and skills possible for this particular industry. Second section that I'm seeing in a purple is industry engagement, or often referred to as work integrated learning. Similar to mini internships or placements, these units will see students head off campus and actually enter the workplace using recent studies to respond to current or future learning challenges. Given our faculty already have a dedicated professional experience team working across our education, counselling and psychology courses, we won't need to have students source their own placements. Basically, Melbourne-based students will have given access to an array of different workplace or virtual settings, and if you're living a little bit further afield, we can work with you to source a relevant placement, whether that be in person or online. Arguably one of the more important tasks or parts to any degree you happen to study when you're actually doing the work that you'll eventually end up being paid for. In the green, we have something a little bit different and something quite cool and pretty specialised to this course. Not only will we be taking education units with our faculty, but you'll also be travelling a little bit further afield to study with Monash Art, Design and Architecture. So MARTA will take students through the language of graphic design. They'll take students through how to work with digital audio and video, approaching global challenges, and each of these units will be studied from the Caulfield campus. I say studying further afield, it is literally minutes down the road from the Clayton campus, and there is a free inter-campus shuttle bus that connects the two as well. The Caulfield campus, is only about 15 to 20 minutes today, given on any given day, depending on our said traffic conditions. It's a lovely bike ride if anyone's interested. Other than MARTA, we also have our Faculty of IT units, so delivered by the Faculty of Information Technology. And these will basically be mandatory units just to give you the basic idea behind game design, as well as an introduction to web fundamentals. A little bit of technology, it is important within the industry, it's something you do need to be studying. The final section we have here in the pink is particularly exciting, and you'll see how much free space there is within this course map in the form of elective units. And when I say free space, the designers of this course have actually put together a list of electives that are incredibly complementary to your learning design studies. And we strongly advise that you select from the list that I'll show on the following slide. But if you know that your learning design pathway will lead you deep into international politics, into the music industry, across construction, across engineering, if you want to focus on advanced business or mathematics, basically, if you can convince our faculty that your ideal electives lay outside the ones that we've curated for you, and you can show us how they will help you become the learning designer you want to be, you are more than welcome to apply to select other electives. A few caveats. One, yes, you do need to convince us that it's a good idea. Two, you'll also need to meet the prerequisites for any other faculty electives that you're looking at applying for permission to study. Sometimes that might be a higher level mathematics, sometimes that might be a physics or chemistry prerequisite. It really depends on the pathway you want to study, but just letting you know it is definitely possible. Feedback we've received about this course design, as we've kind of advertised this course across the past year or so, has been extremely positive for the main reason that it combines a healthy mix of core units with the flexibility to adapt to an individual student's ideal pathway. Whilst dabbling in work integrated learning, you'll still be equipped with the same skills required to eventually land a job in the industry. This is our strongly suggested list of electives for our students, and it covers a range of different fields from additional IT units, design, media comms, management, and a really important one there, psychology too. So students are able to choose from 5 electives across this list from the word go, and you're basically trying to choose electives that are going to suit your interests best. This has been done for a reason, so a student might not be very strong in IT. As I mentioned before, there are 2 units that you have to study, but if that's all you want to, you're more than welcome to finish it up there. But they might be particularly interested in media, communications, psychology, and that's absolutely fine. You can still become a competent learning designer working on educational media content, perhaps designing videos or content as a creator, for example. On the other hand, if a student is less interested in working directly with people and more fond of programming, of coding, of prototyping digital learning experiences, they might place a greater focus on their IT electives. I've spoken already about work integrated learning and placements, as well as the benefit of having a pre-existing and dedicated placements team. But another program I've listed here that students might consider taking is as an elective in the form of the Monash Innovation Guarantee, or more commonly referred to as MIG. MIG takes place over 3 weeks as an intensive, and it's an in-person summer unit generally held in January, and basically involves students working in small teams with the goal of delivering solutions to real-world challenges. These challenges are set by an industry partner organisation. The organisations generally range from commercial or social enterprises, government, UN agencies, startup company, just to name a few. Throughout the MIG experience, students are coached through an innovation process used by the most successful global companies, and in their teams, each apply expertise to design a solution. You'll have regular presentations, you'll have industry check-in meetings, you'll have progress checks, and you'll receive advice from your coach about how to help you design your solution. Given how ingrained learning design is across every industry, and that learning design students will already be studying across multiple faculties, this is a fantastic way to see how your own ideas and approaches come to life in real-world scenarios. So we now know what skills learning designers have, keeping in mind that these skills are highly transferable no matter what industry you choose, and basically able to work across multiple industries if needs be, and that's how this course is designed to prepare you. We also know that this course would best suit anyone hoping to make learning more accessible and effective without necessarily having to stand in front of a classroom, and whose passions might align with creativity, technology, media and comms, psychology, and learning or education. We are flying through this, which is nice. We can all let you free relatively early for Tuesday, but basically we're onto the fun stuff now. So in a nutshell, it's 3 years, it's full-time, it's on campus, mostly from the Clayton campus, with the exception of placements too. Don't forget there is travel to Caulfield required. CSP places will be available with fees to be confirmed, fingers crossed, by next month. In terms of the entry requirements, you're looking at VC English 3 and 4, looking at a 25 score or 27 if EAL. You probably note here that's a bit of a positive. This course does not require mathematics at this stage. VTAC course list, you can add it to your preferences. The VTAC course code is listed just here as well. One thing to note, and possibly subject to approval too, is we also have the potential for VTAC subject adjustments. So VTAC subject adjustments reward students or domestic students studying more than one related Year 12 subject. This could improve your selection rank by providing additional maximum of 6 points towards your ATAR. So if you were to study one of 3 of the following, and we've got applied computing, so in data analytics or software development or both, business management, media, psychology, product design and technology, sociology, and we're missing one, visual communication as well. Basically, these can provide, I guess, a higher aggregate ATAR, which is, a major positive if you've already been studying something that's so relevant to this degree. Really quickly on potential pathways, if you have not or do not meet the entry requirements. So for domestic students, we have on offer the Diploma of Higher Education, or more commonly referred to as DOE. And this is a pathway that leads directly into the second year of the Bachelor of Learning Design and Technology. And there's a few caveats here, but basically this course has a slightly lower ATAR, and should you go through the pressure of achieving a slightly higher mark on average throughout the course of your diploma and pass all units, so it's a 60% average mark you need to hit, you can get up to 1 year of credit towards that destination degree. People generally don't like the idea of completing a diploma, particularly when they thought they'd be studying a bachelor, but I cannot stress enough that this is literally the first year of your degree. You have a little bit of pressure to perform a little bit better, but the units you're completing, the credit you're going to require, some of the classes are it's basically the same first year as everyone else. You just need to make sure you achieve those scores in order to get full credit towards that second year. Another one to note is the Monash Access Program, and this is also for domestic students and for students that are applying at 21 years or older, or 21 years at the time of January when they intend to enrol. There's a few different requirements for applicants for the MAP, or Monash Access Program, but one of them is they cannot have studied at university before, and once completed, they can use this course for direct admission into the first year of study for the Bachelor of Learning Design or Technology. For those who don't necessarily meet the English subject prerequisite score or haven't done it, or the ATAR requirements, you can use a graded VET Certificate 4 or diploma as long as they've been graded, and I can't stress that enough, if we can't see what score you got between every single unit within that diploma or that Phet Cert 4, we can't actually accept your application or even review it. So it needs to be graded. But you can use them as a pathway into either one of our pathway courses in DOE or directly into the Bachelor of Learning Design and Technology. You could also look at completing 2 individual units at university, ideally looking at subjects that are related to this field. So it could be any of the subjects I mentioned earlier, particularly the ones that go toward your VTAC subject score adjustment. But basically, yes, there's other pathways in here. Excuse me. Monash University Foundation year students can you can use another program at Monash College called Muffy if you're an international student. We honestly do not have too much longer to go, and thank you for everyone for staying with me so far. But another question we're going to get quite often and have received quite often is why Monash? In terms of worldwide rankings, they're very respectable, and you can rest assured that your qualification will be well regarded wherever you decide to take it. As Australia's largest university, and in this case with the massive network of staff, the students, the alumni working across almost every imaginable industry, the connections you can make, particularly in the field of learning design, means that in this case, big is definitely better. This course quietly is the first of its kind in Australia, at least at an undergraduate level. And the job market, along with our industry connections, show pretty much an immediate need for skilled and qualified learning designers. Why a bachelor degree? So it's a single qualification and it already meets the needs of the industry you're about to enter. When designing this course, our academics reached out to current instructional and learning designers to hear about the pathways they took to end up in their current job role. And the stories we received were very, very similar. Many completed an unrelated undergraduate degree, worked in HR for a number of years, might have returned to study in either postgraduate psychology or educational design, and then say 10 years after their first degree, they found themselves working as a learning designer. This course aims to cut through that winding journey and allows graduates to enter directly. A few final notes. So if you've been here from the start, you've probably figured out by now that this is definitely not a teaching degree. We do have teaching degrees on offer, of course, in the form of the Bachelor of Education Honours or the Master of Teaching. One thing to note for those studying learning design and tech, you can use this course as a pathway down the track to the Master of Teaching, potentially in early childhood, primary or secondary education. When it comes to secondary alone, you might need to carefully select the elective units that you have in this course if you're looking to teach in specific areas, because you still need to meet the requirements of the Master of Teaching as a destination degree. That said, it doesn't add a significant amount of time on top of your course. This course isn't designed to lead to teaching. It's pretty much an entirely different pathway, but if you do wish to come on back and change your career path, it's definitely going to support, I guess, becoming a more effective teacher down the track. Become a teacher, Bachelor of Education or Master of Teaching. If you're looking at transforming the way we learn, you'd be looking at the Bachelor of Learning Design and Technology. We've done all right for time to be true, and look, that's the end of the formalities this evening, but I can jump in now and see if we've got any questions, and thank you to Olive and Jen for having addressed them so far. A question from Anonymous: electives have to be one of the suggested fields instead of free electives. If I want to take a business unit for electives, is this possible? In short, yes. And to be fair, business might be something that is very complementary to this degree, but it's not something that has been initially approved. So what you would need to do is you'd need to map out with your education success advisor exactly what business units you might like to take. You'd need to find out what level those business units are as well. And then we need to get permission from both the Faculty of Education and the Faculty of Business or Monash Business School to determine whether or not you get approved for studying those business electives. Another thing about business electives is a lot of the courses within the Faculty of Business are going to have a higher mathematics requirement. Our course has no mathematics requirements, so you still need to meet the requirements for your destination degree. In short, no, they're not suggested at this stage, but you can definitely have that conversation once you're in the course and look at mapping out your course to include business. Not a bad idea to have the business sense behind your learning design degree as well. It can't go too far amiss. Are there any double degree options with learning design and tech? Probably the second most asked question this year too. The short answer, not at this stage, but given how many people are interested and how many people have suggested it, it's probably something that will be implemented in the future, not at this stage. How large are you expecting the 2025 cohort to be? Another interesting question in early days. Ideally, we'd have 1,000 students starting on the very first day of next year, already up at O Week, and have full classes. The reality is, releasing a new course, you'd never know what you're going to expect to be true. So if we have a full class, so be it. If we have 100 students, even better. Basically, early days in the application process, we'll have to keep an eye on that one. By the look of it, we seem to have reached all our questions. Oh, here we go. Are there any plans of a postgrad version of this degree under the form of either a master's or a graduate certificate for those who have already completed an undergrad? Yes, there are. Via Monash Online, you could look at the Graduate Certificate of Educational Design, but it's a little bit of a different pathway compared to the Bachelor. Shorter course requires, I guess, higher prerequisites for entry. That said, you'll still find similar experience from our very, very well experienced course leader, whose name's Professor Michael Henderson. And if anyone does have any particularly curly questions about the industry, about the course, about what the course map might look like, we're more than happy to get you in contact directly with him. He's a fantastic resource for this faculty and incredibly knowledgeable as well. So just send through your details. Will the lecturers be experienced learning designers? I think if you have a look in the course map that's online, and as I said, I'll send that out tomorrow night, at least tomorrow within the post-event communication email, but you'll be able to click through and you'll actually start seeing who is teaching into this course. So a number of them will be experienced learning designers, a number of them will be experienced educators, but basically all our academics will have followed a different pathway to end up in academia. But yeah, in short, yes, we will have a few. Is the tuition fee included? All the fee to integrated industry program field trip? Yes, as part of the unit, that's something we'll work for the industry with. One thing I didn't mention about the placements or the work integrated learning is that in the occasion you may have to go through an actual application process for it. So we want to make it as realistic as possible, and our placement partners want to be making sure that the students we put on placement are as appropriate for the role they're applying for as possible as well. So something to keep in mind. Industry placement can be considered as an internship. Does this mean students have 2 opportunities of internship for the 3-year program? So not really an internship, so to speak. So an internship you normally see take over the course of say 6 to 12 months or beyond even for some. These are shorter stints, and you can see exactly how many days you'll be on for each of those 2 placements in the 2nd and 3rd year. So not so much internships, but definitely work integrated learning or work experience. From Anonymous, can you please expand any of Michael's qualifications and achievements in learning design? To be true, Michael's probably the best person to speak to directly about this, and as I said, more than happy to send through his contact details. Maybe not be calling him while he's on annual leave, but more than happy to get him to flick you an email. You can search Michael Henderson, and it'll take you through directly to a scholars page at Monash University, and it'll be one of the first references that pops up if you Google Michael Henderson Monash. He has had a ridiculous amount of experiences across the industry and across so many different platforms, locally, abroad, and being part of so many different learning design, I guess, problems and fixing said problems. So yeah, he's a better person to expand on that one to be true, but definitely worth a chat when you get the opportunity. I'll just give you couple more seconds if there's any other questions, but if not, look, to be true, I'm more than happy to wrap this session up. It has been ridiculously delightful. In our registration, I've seen that there's been careers practitioners, there's been teachers, there's been agents, there's been students, both domestic and international. I've seen a few parents, I've seen a few local schools. The, I guess, expanse that this particular session or this course has reached is already reflecting the sorts of industries that are most interested in finding these people, and basically it's fantastic to have such people join us on a Tuesday night. I'll leave it at that. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. and we might speak to you in the next few weeks if you come up with any additional questions. Keep an eye out for additional information post-webinar that we'll send out shortly, and we'll hope to see you at the Bachelor of Learning Design and Technology next year at Monash in 2025. Thank you.